Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 103. And we're going to get into showing my Erel, Demon Slayer, and Paladin gear post update, how it's changed, the new PRs that I've hit in comparison, where I think they kind of all stand with each other. And then we're going to talk about a few things that I've been getting questions a lot about recently. And one is, what is full buff? And I think surprisingly, not everyone knows what that is, and Nexon doesn't do a great job of showcasing this. But there's one thing in practice mode that I'll show you guys exactly how you can tell what full buffing is and how to get them, doing dailies and get them free just by doing events and things like that and dailies, as well as talking about levels. Levels is one of the most underrated, probably is honestly one of the most impactful ways to improve your damage, and it shows most in Covert. So I'm going to showcase kind of in fog training how being your level in comparison to the boss level actually has a huge impact on your DPS, which is why it showcases in Covert mostly, but and why some of your damage in like Guild Dungeon is different than real game bossing versus other situations. So we'll dive into that in this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate all the support. Follow, hang out in the stream, and let's get into it. So a lot of people just assume that when you're doing bossing, that I just assume that you're full buffed. Okay, and what full buff means is, and the easiest way for me to look at full buffed now is we can look in practice mode. Okay, so practice mode gives you a select max buff option, which is really nice. Okay, so you can obviously set your own, but if you don't know, max buffs here, and so that is you're getting 50% physical attack here from this one, right? And there's the option of, you can see when this gets selected, this gets blurred out too. So this is 30% and this is 50%. Okay, you cannot stack these, so you always want the 50%, obviously. Okay, 30%, this is physical damage right here, and you see it went from 20 to 30. Let's just go this way. So unselect all. So this is what I do for my boss, full buffing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 chestnuts, which gives 30% crit damage. Shrimp, 50% boss attack. And then these are the Tangunes. Okay, so this one gives 20% boss attack and 20% boss defense. Crit rate, 20% and 20% accuracy. And then physical damage for this one, right? Physical defense 20% and also physical damage 50%. And this is boss rush. So this is an additional 50% boss attack. Okay, so this is the staple 8. I would say these are the 8 that I consider full buffed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then there's additional stuff that is pretty common to have as well. Speed buff. Speed buff is huge, that I think is very underrated, that has a lot of impact in just, again, mobility, survivability, dodging stuff, gives you a little bit more reaction time, room for error. 30%, and the sort of cheaper option is speed buff. This is from Mulong, okay? Mulong Dojo. And then if you want to do defensive buffs, these two are paired together. This is more boss defense, 30% versus 50. And you can just play around with this, right? Accuracy buff is another sneaky good one. These are pretty pricey. And then jump, people like this. I don't really need it, but to each their own, right? So, and then for mages, instead of this buff, because obviously mages don't need physical attack, you're going to go magic attack, okay? Grape juice, or this is the cheaper option. And then candy cane is actually really good. And this is in comparison to this basket right here, okay? So if you're mages, this is what I would do. I think it's really only changing these two right here. And then, instead of this one, you want to do this one, okay? So this is magic damage. So this is what you consider full buff for mages. And then, obviously, this is for physical attack users. So this is a nice representation, max buff, and it's going to show you what you need for your situation, okay? And so how do you get these in game? right? Because obviously practice mode isn't going to allow. So I personally use Rudibus because I do RA daily. So candy basket, carrot juice, chestnut, fruit yogurt, fried shrimp. I buy these all the time. I wouldn't, if you're going to use these options, I would not use RA coins. And I would not use RA coins for these lower tier ones if you try to do like a discounted version. But these ones are probably the most bang for your buck as far as buffs. Okay. And obviously in Trade Station you can grab some as well. Consumable buff items. So these are really cheap. But you get baby chick cookies a lot just from playing the game anyways. So I wouldn't really worry about it. This is not really a good price. These are pretty pricey, but again, it's 3 versus 15. Mages got it a lot better. It's a lot cheaper here. And so here you can kind of just search through it, right? That's why like fried shrimp can get pricey. These ones can get pricey. So that's why I prefer to use RA coins when I can. Okay. So RA coins is one, obviously you can boss rush. You can get 1 boss rush potion monthly from Rudibus. And then Kerning Tower gives you 1 as well. And then if you also have an excess of coins, you can buy 10 carrot juice here per month. And then another sneaky way is guild shop. Carrot juice, you can buy this daily and buy this daily. This used to be way more a route that I used to take, but now that guild points are kind of more important, have more value, I'd never buy buffs from here. So that is how you get full buffs, and we'll talk about Tang Yuns, which I'm not really sure people know what it is. Maybe they do. So here, you want to get to level 3. You can choose these options if you want to do automatically, but there's a level 1, which only gives 5%, and then if you use 3 tickets, you can get it to level 3, which is going to give you the max value of, what was it, 20%. Okay. And then another buff here, Campfire, is pretty good. Here, ours gives 7%. And that is what I consider the staple standard full buff. Okay. If there's something that you want to do, and Tang Yuns are daily. Okay. So you can get more tickets by doing Mulong achievements weekly. You can get more tickets here by just doing Tang Yuns daily. So if you're really looking for the discounted version, Tang Yuns are the way to go. This is free. It costs you no coins. It costs you no resources. You don't even have to spend mesos on this and just do it kind of on your own. But you want to make sure that you get all of this, right? And the most important thing, especially for non-necro weapon users that don't have fair trade, if you want to at least maximize your, maximize your damage without, breaking the bank on this stuff, you got to get the 100% crit rate. Okay, that is something that people with fair trade and necro weapons really have a huge advantage. But if you're like a chaos weapon user or inherent user or a mythic even, or a Rudibus weapon, whatever it is, and you don't have fair trade, you need to get the crit rate. Okay, and carrot juice is pretty pricey, can be, so you definitely want to get this Tang Yun because this gives you up to 20% crit rate. So you want to try to get as close to 100% as possible, obviously. So all your lines are hitting as hard as possible. And then physical damage is the best buff. Okay, physical damage or magic damage in that case is better than the jellyfish. And these candy baskets are pretty good too. So there are options, kind of what fits your needs, but that is what I consider full buffed. And you'll see it in all my runs, right? When I have like my buff bar open, you'll see I have all these buffs going, all these different things, even drop rate, even like the maple buff, the maple tree buff for this extra drop rate here. Even these buffs here, physical damage, 1%, 5% speed, just little things. And then Fever, this costs crystals, but sneaky good ones are crit rate again, 10%. And then just all this attack, and then speed. Crit damage, 20% crit damage is actually a lot too, okay? So this is how people sometimes can inflate their stats here. And it all just adds up adds up straight. So you can get a ton of stats here, and you'll notice your damage full buffed versus non-full buffed is actually it's very impactful. Okay, rarely do people, if anyone's doing any sort of content, they're full buffing, even at the highest level. Like I full buff versus non-full buff for my Erel, for my Demon Slayer, even for my Paladin, I have to full buff for like covert to see actual results. And obviously in the end game bossing, I full buff as well. So yeah, I hope this helps you guys understand it and kind of where to get it and the best thing that works out for you guys. And then one of the sneaky things that, this first week of bossing, right? Covert is one of those things that a lot of people are testing that has a huge impact. So one of the sneaky changes that they made this patch was they raised this to 100%. Okay, so this 100% is specifically for covert. We were never actually able to confirm damage lines and if we're capping or what our damage is like in covert until after this patch in fog training. Okay, so what we learned is that the bosses, we knew that this was 100% defense and crit res, but we did not fully confirm what the level of the covert stage 6 boss was. So we were able to basically figure out that it's 250%, level 250 with 100%. So this is now what I wanted to show. What I want to show here is that there's something that I think people don't know, is that there's a gap in how your levels compare to the boss's level. Okay, so covert, so a lot of people think that all the bosses are like level 250, but it's not the case. I think most of the bosses that we've tested are around level 200. They may be, and I think if I remember correctly, yeah, so this is what we confirm basically is this level 200 and level 40. Okay, or 40% ignore enemy defense. So pretty much every boss, it shows you what it is. Okay, level 200, level 200, level 200. So these are all level 200 bosses. Okay, but the difference is defense ignore rate, 60% here, 30%, 50%. That's the only difference between these bosses, but we can pretty much guarantee that these are all level 200 bosses. Okay, and what separates covert is that it's a level 250 boss. So what does that mean? That means that, like, if I were to just do some sort of DPS check right here, okay, and we'll just look at lines. So for one, let's just do a full burst here. So for one, since it's 100% crit res, and I'm not buffed, obviously, I'm actually not capping my lines. And you see my crit rate is 168%, right? And so you're probably like, why is it not capping? Crit res means, and this is kind of confusing, but it means how much percent over 100%. So it's an additional on top of 100. So like 100% crit res means 200%. Okay, so I'm only critting 68% of the time, if that makes sense. So like if you look at my lines here in vertical mode, I'm basically only critting, even with fair trade, it's like 60% of the time. Okay, and that reflects on min and max damage. The average damage goes down. Okay, so now if I just throw on a buff real quick to be at 200%, over 200% with fair trade, I should be critting 100% of the time. So that's what crit res is, if anyone's wondering. So yeah, you see all those are 100% now, right? Everything's critting. Okay, and that's why fair trade is actually insane. But back to covert. So back to covert, right? So what I'm going to test here is that the lines of at 250 and then versus level 245. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick 1 minute test. I guess I can just do 30 second. Okay, so 31 seconds. Say I did 81 bill, okay? 81.81 bill. Look at these lines. Everything seems pretty spot on. Okay, 41 bill damage. These do not that much damage, okay? So basically 50% of my damage is this one skill. So 81, 8181. That's easy to remember. So now I'm gonna change this to level 240. Let's just say 245, okay? Or maybe I'll do it to 239, my current level. So what people don't realize is that your level in relative to the boss's level actually has a, if you're lower level, it's actually you're gonna do less percent damage, which is actually pretty insane. And we confirmed this the first time fog training came out, and so it's been known for a while, but it's pretty significant. So that's why like newer players, new people that reroll or people that are lower levels actually don't really see their true damage in covert specifically. That's like the biggest the content that gets impacted the most until they're almost equal level with the mains, which is takes a long time, right? So these are one of the time gated things that people just can't overcome, and they just have to, newer players can't overcome, which is unfortunate. Even if you have like the best gear, it doesn't necessarily translate as much in covert. Okay, so let's remember it was 81 81. I gotta do more damage here and just have to wipe all this. Okay. Okay, yeah. No, yeah, so okay. Right? This is the insane part, okay? Being the same level, 95 bill. So I did 14 bill more damage because the boss was the same level. Okay, so let's just say 81 divided by 95.16. So 15% damage less. Okay, that's actually insane. 15% over 30 seconds. Okay, so it's not obviously in like a 3-minute fight, it may not be the same, it may be different, but just in 30 seconds, just being 11 level difference. So it's just, now that you realize that, it just blows your mind how impactful levels are. Okay, so now I'm gonna do, let's just do 30 seconds here. I should have did this from the start, but so kind of doing the math here, you kind of assume this will be right in the middle, probably around 90. I'll probably do around 90 build damage, give or take. And so one of the things that, and this is why covert compared to regular bosses at level 200, you'll see your full max potential as a newer player sooner than you will in regular bossing, than you will in covert, and even in Mulong sometimes. So just keep that in mind. It's actually insane, something that they don't tell you, right? We had to figure this out on our own too. So if you didn't know, like if you didn't know this or test it on your own, they're not telling you. Right? We've been doing this for a long time, and so it's just, and So yeah, like here, I should be around 90 bill as expected, right? And pretty much spot on, right? So nothing's changed. I didn't buff, I didn't do anything, and just a level difference. So the point is, right, in Covert, you're not going to hit your full potential, like, but every level, you're going to see, like, even if you don't change your gear at all, you're going to see more gains in Covert naturally, right? That's why my Demon Slayer level 251, 252 is kind of lapping my Erel, when in real bossing, it's about the same. They're about the same in damage, but in Covert, the 15%, just levels wise, it adds up. Okay, so it's about, it seems like just under 1% true damage. Okay, it's not like 1% final damage, it's not 1% physical damage, it's just 1% damage, just under that maybe per level, maybe like 0.8%. So more of the story is levels matter. People that are levels matter, and it's kind of one of the best ways to improve your damage without actually doing damage, you know, without actually progressing your gear. So keep that in mind. I hope that helps, and it's just kind of a long-winded answer, but I had to show you the data as it is. Pretty cool, right? So now finally the Demon Slayer gear. This is a nice mixture of Chaos and Absolab, but around 56, so less than my Erel, but a little bit higher defense ignore rate. But the stats, if you remember seeing, it's got significantly more crit damage here, and just slightly less boss attack. So I think the stats across the board for the Demon Slayer are better. The max damage cap is just slightly lower though. So I actually didn't benefit a lot from the Star Force. The Star Force is okay, but it's not great. But the Dawn Pendant kind of gave me quite a bit, and then the Lotus Mask gave me 900. So there's still some nice things here on the Demon Slayer, but the damage actually was pretty good, I think. So this was a pretty spot on. I think one of the things that Demon Slayer actually feels like the meta currently might favor Demon Slayer more than Erel, and just classes like Demon Slayer in general, because they have a pretty significant burst window every minute, and they still have that large burst window every 2 minutes with their Demon Bane, which is a 2-minute cooldown. It's about 2,000 lines, but Demon Awakening being on a 60-second cooldown, and this skill and Spirit of Rage, it actually lines up nicely with a lot of content. So you'll see it in Gloom here. Actually insane. My arrow was around 190 bill. So and you can see just the dips aren't as low. And so in a lot of shorter content, or maybe not shorter, but it feels like there's just more consistency with the damage. The Archon wasn't as high as the Erel, but I think kind of this kind of hurts, right? Will is not as high. Will was decent though, but it felt like Gloom is where they really shine. Demon Slayers really shine in Gloom and do pretty good, because they just have more consistent damage every minute. Guild Honor Battle is not as good as Erel. This doesn't have that high end burst, but I think Covert is my Covert's pretty good. I think it's around 49.50. So that's my Demon Slayer gear. It's pretty on par with my Erel, just a little bit less cap, but more stats in general. My Demon Slayer is strong though. My Demon Slayer actually feels very, very strong. Again, I'm going to focus on getting the Signet here. If I get lucky, I'll get it. But I think for the most part, I got to buy Primals. Which, if you haven't seen the Primal market right now, holy smokes. People are going crazy. This was last week about 800. Maybe it's a few weeks back. It was like 600, 700 mil. The market is crazy right now. So But yeah, Demon Slayer gear feels pretty good. I think it went up about I would say 13 mil again. Kind of a lot. So 40 mils a new 50 mil, and 50 mil, it's like 65 mils a new 50 mil. So pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Demon Slayer feels nice. I really, really like Demon Slayer still. Alright, so now I'm going to showcase my Erel gear. Post a lot of gains, actually. So with this new rebalance, one of the things that I got was I used Lady Blair to move over my M labels. So I got 3 set here, which was actually huge. 10% boss attack, 5% physical damage. And then I got this one as well. So the 3/3 M label sets. So I got 20% boss attack and 10% physical damage just from this. Then I got pets moved over. So what, 400 attack here and HP, and a ton of HP actually. So about 1200 attack on top of this set bonus. So 2000 actually. Pretty much 2000 attack and all these stats. Okay. And the biggest gains for me was the buff slots and then the vacuum pet. That is actually really nice. So game changer for me, just stats wise, was huge just this last rebalance. And then I think I hit Necro. So I ended up getting a boss attack emblem here. Previously I was using Pencilier boots, which was pretty good defense, and good potentials. So I lost some physical attack here, but it was just a 1 level emblem. So I actually made gains here. Boss attack wise, I think it was kind of a wash though, to be honest, and just slightly less ignore rate, maybe a little bit more max damage cap, 500k. And so I'm in a pretty good spot here on my Erel. My cap, let's see. So my crit damage is actually still pretty low, but my boss attack is really high because I have boss attack emblems. And if I throw on Speed Infusion, if I throw on Combat Order, and if I throw on, I think, Blink, and Sneaky Good now is at decent Advanced Blessing. But with all my buffs proccing, like this is my burst with a ton of final damage from Weapon Aura, a ton of final damage from 37%. Like this buff is actually insane now. Look at this. This is so much final damage, and it actually adds up quite a bit. So keep that with a grain of salt, but my boss attack is really high. My crit damage is lacking. I'm gonna be honest, it's lacking. But with all those buffs, I get quite a bit of final damage here. Physical damage. So this is my stat, 62.6 mil cap, 250k HP. Do I even have without decent hyper body? So actually kind of cranking HP wise. And so the first round of PRs was okay. Will actually was a terrible run by me. I think we had Will is in a unique spot for teams right now because they're killing it so fast. Archon felt pretty good, 200k. So I think my previous was about 140, around the 140k, 140 bill. So I went up about, what is that, 60 bill DPM, which is what, 40% maybe, almost 50%, from 140 to almost 210. Yeah, 45%. So I forgot to mention that my previous cap was from 62.6. I think previously it was on 47 or 49. I think it was 49. So I went up by like 13 mil max damage cap. And then Gloom actually went up slightly. I think I could have played a little bit better. But yeah, I could have played a little bit better. So I think this can get higher. I think my previous was like 180, 185. So each run is different, right? My Archon went up almost 1.5 times. And then my Gloom went up maybe like 10%. My Will actually probably was lower, 127, than my normal PR, I think. Yeah, like this was before patch. So again, it's only 1 week of data, and I think that is one of the things that we're it's hard to gauge how your damage really is going because people are still adjusting. It's only one run. There's a lot of factors that obviously damage can fluctuate. So I don't want to overreact to 1 week as far as damage across the board, but the free cap is a free cap, and I got a lot of stats, so I believe that I should have a lot more. Like, I don't think it's out of the question that like 40% damage increase for me on my arrow is unrealistic because of the stats that I got and the max damage cap that I got. So that's my arrow right now. I'm gonna check out the streams to see the bossing. Guild Honor Battle, I think 1.9, almost 2 trillion. I think previously my high was like 1.4, so that's just pure cap. And yeah, Guild Dungeon, I don't know what Guild Dungeon was, to be honest, but yeah, that's my arrow. So my Paladin gear post patch, I think it went from 85 mil cap ish to about 120. And so the biggest thing for me was obviously these level 60 Absol pieces went from 9 mil to 13 mil each. The Star Force Liberation gave me a big bump as well, and then Legion. So pretty straightforward as far as gear. My next kind of path of progression is just to get the Signet and get these are all attempts, which is pretty insane. So I'll have about 10 attempts here on my next clear. And so obviously that's going to help with Star Force Liberation as well as Mythic Accessories giving a lot. So yeah, like my Dawn Pendant gives me 4 mil max. This one gives what, 9, you know, so all this stuff adds up. 9. So that's where my Pally gear is sort of at now. And DPS wise, funny enough, Archon. What's that? Oh, Archon. Yeah, okay, Archon. I keep saying Archon, but it's Archon. What am I saying? Archon. About 415. I think previously it was around the low 300s, maybe. And it's mainly just the peaks here. The peaks are insane. This wasn't even a good run, so I'll definitely get a better time there. I expect to get better. I think here I went up about quite a bit. But I don't think Pallies are that great in just insane actually. Thinking about it, oh my gosh. Like I just saw Geminis, his Gloom score was literally 1 trillion. So he was basically doing 1 trillion every minute. Just insane. But we're not very good in Gloom Paladins in comparison to other classes. And Will, actually this was a terrible one. I kind of messed it up, so I wouldn't look at that. But you know, it's 1 week. 1 week of bossing. I wouldn't really dive too, you know, there's a lot of things that I could improve on. Teams are getting different. 3.3 trillion, pretty insane. This is like peak. Sagan is peak Paladin, so I've got a long way to go here. I think Guild Dungeon I was around 1.2, I think 10 or 11 trillion, or 10 or 11 billion. Sorry, yeah, 10 or 11 billion. 10 or 11 billion. And then Culvert went up to, I think my Culvert score is about 150. Yeah. 150,000. So, not bad. Not bad on the Paladin. I'm honestly itchy to get moved gear. I'm honestly itchy to kind of get a dream belt here. And because this belt is my EXP belt. So it's got EXP, it's got drop rate, it's got all random stuff. Not really for bossing. So I'm going to try and improve there. And then we'll see what I want to do. Kind of itchy to solo some content. To solo some Damien, solo some Lucid, and then... so we'll see. But that's Paladin gear. Kind of pretty insane. Alright, that was the end of the episode. Episode 103. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Come and hang out on the stream as well. Try to do Monday and Thursdays, all the bossing, and maybe do some more. Kind of excited to see where it goes, but appreciate all the support as well. Thanks again. I'll see you guys next time.